Hi everyone, this is Gloria. Welcome to the tutorial for Module 10. To get started, you want to open up the file npex1610a. And when you do so, you may have an Enable Editing button. So to get started, you want to make sure that you click on that so that you can edit through the document. So as in past classes, we want to do the same thing in terms of saving this file with your own name so that it will appear, your name will appear in cell B6. So you want to go to File, Save As, and then you want to select an area that is convenient for you to access and click Save. What you want to do is you want to delete Lori Thompson's name, input your name, click Save, and then your name should automatically appear in cell B6. And as you can see by the note, if it does not appear in that cell, you should download a new copy from the SAM website. So the second thing that we want to do before we begin with the project steps is we want to add the solver add-in to Microsoft Excel. So to do that, we want to go to File, Options, click on Add-ins, and we want the solver add-in. Click on Go, and because of your previous files, you should have the analysis tool pack already checked, and then you want to check solver add-in and click OK. And once you do that, if you come over to the Data tab up on the ribbon, you can now see that solver will appear under the Analyze section. Okay, so to get started, we are going to begin with step 1. And what we're going to do in step 1, you're going to take the data and you're going to analyze some scenarios that involve cutting expenses and raising prices. And the goal is the owners of the company want you to find the most profitable mix of products using the most cost-effective means of production. So we're going to get started by clicking on the Wireless tab at the bottom of the spreadsheet, and we're going to first perform a break-even analysis for wireless headphones. What that means is if our gross profit in cell B27 is a 0, that would be the break-even point. So to figure out how many units we need to sell, we're going to use the what if analysis. So up on the ribbon, select Data, What if analysis, and then we want to click in Goal Seek. So the set cell is B27. What if B27 were a 0, were made a 0 by changing the unit sold cell B26? Click OK. So now, as you can see, in order to get to that break-even point, the number of units sold would have to be $8,966 for the gross profit to equal 0. Next, we're going to move on to step 2. And in this step, we want to create a one variable table to calculate sales, expenses, and profits based on the number of wireless headphones sold. So wireless headphones sold is that one variable. So what we want to do is we want to come up to the first table that we see, the profit analysis, and in cell D5 we want to reference cells that are in our data over here to the left. So for units sold, we want that to equal what is in cell B4. So we do an equal sign, select cell B4 and enter. And for total sales, we want a reference which begins with an equal sign. We want to reference cell B19, the total sales. Click that cell and enter. For F5, we want to reference begin with an equal sign, and we want to select B20, enter. And our gross profit, we want to reference beginning with an equal sign, B21, and enter. Okay, so now that we've put that in there, what we want to do is we want to select the range of D5 through D5 through G10. So this is going to be another what if scenario. So select those cells, come up to the data tab on the ribbon, what if analysis, and now we want to create a data table. Because it's using one variable and what we want to input are rows, we want to select the column input cells for B4, the number of units sold. And when we click OK, the table is automatically populated for us. And basically what it's telling you is that if you were to sell 15,000 units, these are the sales, the expenses, and that's what your gross profit would be. So what if we sold 15,000 units? What would my gross profit be? What if we sold 30,000 units? What would my gross profit be? So for step 3, we're going to do the same thing using a data table to calculate the gross profit analysis based on 2 variables this time. And the variables are headphones sold and price per unit. So we're going to begin by selecting cell D14 through K19. Right, so we have our data table selection. We're going to come up to the what if analysis on the data tab. And again, we want data table. So now we have 2 variables, and our price per unit is here in cell B5. So we want to select that, come down to the column input cell, and we want B4, and click OK. And now it will show you that if the price per unit were $149 and you sold 35,000 units, you still would not be profitable. If you sold it for $159, you wouldn't be profitable until you sold at least 30,000 units. And at 169 units, you can see that with every variable of 15, 20, 25, 30, or 35, you would still be profitable. So for step 4, we want to apply a custom format cell to D14 to display the text of units sold price. So in cell D14, instead of this reading $465,000, we want it to read units sold. So we're going to click inside D14, right click, come down to Format Cells, and on the Number tab, you want to be under Custom, and as you can see down here, Units Sold, and click OK. So now you can see that that's changed to units sold, the textual information. However, if you notice, it's still referencing cell B21, which means if this number were to change, everything in here in your table would update because it's still referencing a number. We're just putting sort of a shell over the number. So for step 5, we want to move over to the noise canceling worksheet. So click on that tab at the bottom, And what we want to do here is we want to create a scatter with straight lines chart based on D4 through F14. So the first thing that you want to do is select cells D4 through F14. And then we want to come up to the ribbon and we want to click on Insert. We want to move over to the Chart section and we want to use the drop down on the Scatter Chart icon. And if you hover over each of these graphics, you can see it'll tell you the types of charts and options that you have available. So we want to go and select the fifth one here at the top where it says Scatter with Straight Lines. So just click that. And now you have your chart. So for steps 6 and 7, we're going to make some modifications to this chart. The first thing that we want to do is resize and reposition the chart so it covers D15 through H32. So we want our 4-pointed prong here, and we want to click and drag over to cell D15, and we want to come over here and move this over to H and make sure that it covers down to row 32. So by clicking and dragging, I'm resizing the chart. Next, what we want to do is we want to remove the title, the chart title here. So I'm just going to simply click on it. Once I get my 4-pointed dots, that means that area is selected, and I'm going to select Delete on the keyboard, and that goes away. Next, we want to add sales and expenses as the vertical axis and units sold as the horizontal axis. So we want to label our axes. To do so, we're going to come over here to the plus sign, which are the chart elements, and we're going to click in the box Axis Titles. And once you do that, you can see on the vertical you have an axis title, and on the horizontal you have a title. So we want to customize that. So as you can see, the vertical is already selected because it's got its 4 prongs on each end. And I'm simply going to just begin typing what I want the title to be, which is Sales and Expenses. And you can see that is appearing up here in the formula bar. And I simply click Enter, and it automatically changes my vertical axis. The next thing we want to do is we want to change the horizontal axis to read units sold. So I'm going to select that by clicking on it, get my 4 prongs, and I'm going to just type units sold and enter. And now that's been changed. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to change the numbers, the bounds that are being shown on the vertical and horizontal axis. So we'll begin with the vertical axis, and we want this to start at 1.75 million, and we want the max to be 2.65. So you can click anywhere within the vertical axis, and then up at the chart, up on the ribbon bar, under Chart Tools, you want to click Format, and we want to format the selection. And by selecting that, the Format Axis dialog opens up on the right of the screen. So we want to do here, according to the instructions, we want to set the bounds to be 1.75 million for the minimum. And as I'm making these changes, you can see that the chart is also changing simultaneously, and I want this to be 2.65 million. And I click outside of that so that I can see the changes have been made. So now if you look at the vertical axis, you can see those bounds have changed. So continuing on with formatting, we're going to move to cell step 7, and we want to change the format of the vertical axis to currency with 0 decimal places. So while we're still here, we want to move down to, on the Format Axis dialog, down to Number, so we can format the number. And under Category, there's a drop down. Click the drop down box, and we want it to be Currency. Decimal places by default is 0, and symbol by default is the $sign, which is exactly what we want. And we can simply click outside to see that that has now been applied. So now we want to do the same thing. We want to make some changes to the horizontal axis, and we want the bounds to read 8,500 through 12,500. So we're going to click anywhere inside the vertical axis. Format Axis opens up, and the minimum that we want is 8,500. And the maximum automatically changes to 12,500 because of the units that we have. And you can just simply click anywhere outside to see your changes that are in place. So the next thing that we're going to do on this particular sheet is we're going to create two scenarios to compare costs for standard components and green components of the noise canceling headphones. And to do this, we're going to use Scenario Manager. So you can click anywhere on the sheet, and we're going to come up to Data. And this is a what if analysis, and it's Scenario Manager. So the first scenario, according to the instructions that you can see on the instructions that have been provided for you, you want to add the scenario name of standard. And in this scenario, if we change cells B11 and B14, that's the scenario. So you're going to click on changing cells, click on B11, comma, B14. And click, you're going to first click on hide, because according to the instructions, we don't want that to be seen. So we're going to click OK, and the scenario value dialog box is then going to open up, and according to the instructions, the noise canceling variable cost is $179, and the fixed cost, we'll type in there 300,000. And you can click OK, or you can click Add. We're going to click Add because we want to add the second scenario, which is environmental. And you can see by changing cells B11 and B14 is already indicated. We want to hide the changes. Click OK. And we want to change these costs to what is on the instructions sheet to $182.50 for the variable cost and $350,000 for the fixed cost. And you click OK, and now you can see that your two scenarios have been indicated, and we just want to close. We don't want to show any of the results. So for step 9, we want to move over to the earphones worksheet. And again, we're going to create another scatter with straight line chart using D6 through I14. So the first thing you want to do is select D6 through I14. You want to come up to the ribbon and select Insert, move over to the charts, select the Scatter button, and we want Scatter with straight lines. So just click on that to select it. So for step 10, we're going to make some modifications, and it's going to begin with resizing and repositioning the chart to cover cells D15 through I82. So click and drag the entire chart to D15, and then use your handles to come over to I32, clicking and dragging. So the first thing we want to do, again, as we did with the other chart, is select chart title and click delete because we want to remove it. The next thing we want to do is we want to move the legend that you see here at the bottom, and we want that to appear to the right of the chart. So by clicking on the plus sign, I have my chart elements, and legend is selected, and I want to click the little arrow next to it, which will then tell me the selections that I have and the options that I have to change the position of it. So I want it to go to the right. So select right, and now you can see that the legend has been moved over to the right. As we did with the other chart, we want to add a vertical and horizontal axis titles. And for vertical, we want to add net income, and for horizontal, we want to add units sold. So we need to select axis titles so that we can input the information, and the vertical is already selected. You can see that with the 4 dots. And we want this to read net income, enter, and then we're going to select the axis title for the vertical axis, and we want this to read units sold, enter. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to change the color of the chart, meaning the colors that we see here, and you can do so easily. So chart tools, because our chart is selected, on the design tab, we want to select change colors, and you want to select the first palette under monochromatic. So now you can see that the colors have changed. So for step 11, we're going to want to make some changes to the minimum and maximum bounds of the vertical axis. So select the vertical axis. Format axis dialog is still open, and the first thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we select axis options from the 4 options that we have. So click on axis options. Minimum we want to be negative 100,000, which is already there, and we want to change the maximum to 620,000. And we want to change it to be currency with no decimal places and the dollar symbol. So we can simply come down here to number, and we want to change this to currency, 0 decimal places, and the symbol. And I just need to change that. Okay, so now you can see all of that formatting has been applied. And next we want to change the horizontal axis to 10,500 to 14,500. So select inside the vertical axis, the format axis area will appear, and the bounds we want to be minimum of 10,500. You're going to type that in, and maximum is 14,500. So now you can see that change has been made. So the final thing that we're going to do in step 12, and we'll continue with the second video, is we want to change the series name to reflect these prices that we see up here. So to do so, you're going to select the series area, and you're going to select the filter button, chart filters. And it's going to show the series that we have, and we want to select data in order to change the way these series read. So currently it's at series 1, that's what it reads on our chart. And we want to change that, so we're going to select series 1, we want to edit it, and we want it to reference cell E5. And we click OK, and then we want to change and edit series 2, and we want that to reference F5. Series 3, edit G5, edit H5, and And finally, Series 5, Edit, I5, and click OK, and OK to close the dialog. And now you can see that instead of reading Series 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, it now references the numbers that we see here. Okay, so that's going to do it for the first video for Module 10, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.